False 9 chaos. Barcelona walks into the Santiago Bernabeu on May 2nd, 2009, and Pep Guardiola drops a tactical bomb. Lionel Messi, normally a right winger, gets shifted to centre forward the day before the match, except he's not staying there. He's dropping deep into midfield, dragging Real Madrid's centre-backs into no man's land, while Samuel Eto'o and Thierry Henry sprint behind like heat-seeking missiles. Madrid's defensive line can't decide whether to follow Messi or hold position, so they do both badly. Final score: Barcelona 6, Real Madrid 2. Football tactics never recover. The false 9 isn't new. Johan Cruyff used Michael Laudrup this way at Barcelona in the 1990s, but Guardiola weaponizes it. When Messi drops into the hole, Sergio Ramos faces an impossible choice: follow him and leave canyons of space behind, or stay back and let the best player on earth orchestrate unmarked. Ramos chooses wrong every single time. Henry scores directly from Messi dragging defenders 20 yards out of position. Jump to Liverpool 2018. Roberto Firmino operates as Klopp's false 9, finishing some matches with 0 goals but 3 assists. He drops, he links, he disappears. Defenders lose him because there's nothing to mark in the center. By the time they figure it out, Mohamed Salah's already celebrating. Firmino doesn't score the goals. He creates the conditions for goals to become inevitable. The false 9 exploits the fundamental flaw in defending. Centre-backs mark strikers who stay high, not ghosts who drift deep. Guardiola's Barcelona 2009 to 2012 perfects this. Messi conducting from deep. Xavi and Iniesta pulling strings, 14 trophies in 4 years. The role demands intelligence over athleticism, vision over finishing. Quite the way to make traditional strikers obsolete, honestly. Raumdeuter mystery. Thomas Müller sits in an interview in 2011 and the journalist asks what position he actually plays. Müller pauses, thinks, then delivers a line that changes football vocabulary forever. Ich bin ein Raumdeuter. I am a space investigator, not a striker, not a winger, not an attacking midfielder. He's a position that doesn't exist on any formation chart, a player who hunts gaps in defensive structures that nobody else even sees. The term sticks because there's genuinely no other way to describe what he does. Louis van Gaal discovers Müller at Bayern Munich in 2009 and immediately realizes he's coaching something alien. Müller scores 19 goals and adds 16 assists in his breakthrough season, operating in zones that confuse defenders and teammates alike. He doesn't have pace, defenders clock him and shrug. He doesn't have silky dribbling or thunderous shots. What he has is a brain that processes space at a different frequency, arriving into dangerous areas exactly when the ball does, like he's been shown the script 5 seconds before everyone else. The stats are absurd for someone who looks average. Müller's scored 270 Bayern goals, won 33 trophies, and his 26 assists in the 2019-20 season set a Bundesliga record, a record set by a player in a position that technically doesn't exist. During Bayern's 2020 treble, his movement created space for Robert Lewandowski to bag 55 goals. Lewandowski said it himself: "It's easier with Thomas next to me." Pep Guardiola tried understanding Müller at Bayern and mostly succeeded by just letting him roam free. The raumdeuter exploits the cracks between defensive and midfield lines, appearing in pockets defenders forget exist. Defenders can't man-mark him because he's never in the same place twice. Zonal marking fails because he interprets zones better than the defenders protecting them. He's football's ultimate glitch, and Bayern spent 15 years refusing to patch it. Regista puppet master. Andrea Pirlo sits at the base of Juventus's midfield in 2012, and over the next 4 seasons, he orchestrates Serie A like he's conducting an orchestra from the deepest position on the pitch. He completes roughly 60 passes per match, not sideways hospital balls, but calculated, defense-splitting, tempo-controlling passes that flip games with a single touch. Pirlo doesn't sprint, barely jogs even, but he doesn't need to because his positioning puts him in the right place before the ball arrives. He wins 2 Champions Leagues at AC Milan, doing this, then 4 consecutive Serie A titles at Juventus. The regista isn't a destroyer, it's a creative genius sitting in front of the defense, spraying 40-yard switches that change the entire game's geography. Sergio Busquets perfects the same role at Barcelona under Guardiola, operating as the single pivot in a 4-3-3 that dominates world football from 2008 to 2012. Busquets completes over 5,000 passes in the 2010-11 season alone, a season where Barcelona wins La Liga and the Champions League. He makes 100+ passes per match, sitting between the centre-backs and dictating every sequence without ever looking rushed. Xavi drops the perfect line about him. If you watch the whole game, you won't see Busquets. If you watch Busquets, you'll see the whole game. When Barcelona tries playing without him, their win percentage drops 23%. That's the regista effect. The regista reads passing lanes 3 moves ahead, intercepts with his brain rather than his legs, then instantly transforms defense into attack. Different from a traditional defensive midfielder who wins the ball and passes it 5 yards, the regista wins it and launches switches that bypass entire blocks of players. They don't tackle aggressively, they position, they cut lanes before passes are attempted, they control time itself by slowing games down when leading and speeding them up when chasing. Football's ultimate proof that the least flashy players are often the most crucial. Enganche magician. Juan Román Riquelme arrives at Villarreal in 2003 and proceeds to walk through La Liga while his teammates sprint themselves into exhaustion around him. He completes 10 assists in the 2004 to 2005 season, orchestrating attacks from the number 10 position with literally zero, defensive responsibilities tolerated by the manager. The enganche is Argentina's sacred tradition, a pure playmaker operating between the lines, immune to pressing duties, existing solely to create. Riquelme walks because running would waste energy better, spent threading passes through impossible angles. His teammates don't question it, they cover for him and reap the rewards of his creativity. The enganche demands total tactical sacrifice from the other 10 players. The team builds around him, compensating for his lack of defensive work by shifting responsibilities elsewhere, and in return they get a player who can unlock any defense with a single pass. Diego Maradona perfected this role in the 1980s, Riquelme carried it into the 2000s, and then modern football murdered it with high-pressing systems that punish passengers. You can't have a player who walks anymore, not when Liverpool presses with 6 players within 3 seconds of losing possession. The role disappeared almost overnight as gegenpressing tactics spread across Europe. Only one player gets enganche freedom in the modern era: Lionel Messi at the 2022 World Cup. Argentina builds their entire system around protecting him, with Angel Di Maria and Julian Alvarez covering massive ground while Messi operates as a false 9/enganche hybrid. He walks between the lines, picks up the ball, and creates, exactly like Riquelme did 2 decades earlier. Argentina wins the World Cup, and it's the last time we'll probably see a team sacrifice this much for one player's creative freedom. Modern football killed the luxury playmaker, but Messi got one final dance before the curtain closed. Inverted fullbacks revolution. Pep Guardiola arrives at Bayern Munich in 2013 and immediately breaks the Bundesliga's brain. He takes Philipp Lahm, one of the world's best right-backs, and tells him to tuck into central midfield during possession instead of hugging the touchline. Lahm becomes a hybrid defender midfielder, sitting in front of the centre-backs when Bayern build up, then drifting inside to create numerical superiority in the middle of the park. Bundesliga teams can't comprehend it. They're set up to defend against traditional fullbacks bombing forward, not technically gifted defenders morphing into deep-lying playmakers. Bayern dominates possession at levels the German league has never seen, suffocating opponents with an extra man in midfield they didn't know existed. Guardiola perfects the system at Manchester City with Alexander Zinchenko and João Cancelo. Both tuck inside during possession, turning City's 4-3-3 into a 2-3-5 in attack while keeping defensive stability through positioning rather than numbers. The wingers, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, Jack Grealish, suddenly have acres of space because opposition fullbacks can't push up without leaving canyons behind. Meanwhile, City's midfield becomes impossible to press. Try to close down Kevin De Bruyne and suddenly there's an inverted fullback appearing in space with time to pick any pass he wants. The 2022-23 treble comes directly from this system, Stones inverting from right back to create 3v2 overloads in midfield that Arsenal's players literally froze trying to process. Mikel Arteta, Guardiola's former assistant, copies the blueprint at Arsenal for their 2022-23 title push. Zinchenko moves from City to Arsenal and operates as a left-sided playmaker who happens to wear the number 35 shirt. He tucks inside constantly, forming passing triangles with Martin Odegaard and Granit Xhaka that Arsenal use to progress the ball through pressure. The result? Arsenal leads the Premier League for 248 days before collapsing in April, but the tactics work perfectly. Traditional fullbacks who just overlap and cross are dead. Every elite team now demands fullbacks who can play midfield. Quite the career change for defenders who grew up dreaming of bombing down the wing. Libero's rebirth. Franz Beckenbauer invents the libero role in the 1970s at Bayern Munich, operating as a free man behind the defensive line who dictates play from the deepest position. He's not just a sweeper who clears danger, he's a ball-playing defender who steps forward into midfield, launches attacks, and controls the entire team's rhythm from behind. West Germany wins the 1974 World Cup with Beckenbauer as libero, and the role becomes synonymous with intelligent, cultured defending. Then it dies. The offside trap and high-pressing systems of the 1990s kill the sweeper position, and for 2 decades it's considered tactically extinct. Pep Guardiola brings it back from the dead at Manchester City in 2023, but with a modern twist. John Stones, a centre-back, steps into midfield during possession to create numerical overloads that opposition teams can't handle. In the crucial 4-1 demolition of Arsenal that decides the title race, Stones inverts into central midfield and creates constant 3-2 situations. Arsenal's midfielders freeze because they're trained to press a back 4, not a back 3 with a centre-back casually strolling into their zone. City controls 65% possession, Arsenal can't get near the ball, and Stones completes 117 passes from a position that shouldn't exist on the team sheet. David Alaba perfects a similar role at Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti, defending 1 second and appearing as a deep-lying playmaker the next. He reads the game from centre-back, steps forward when Madrid build attacks, and sprays 40-yard passes that flip defensive situations into counters. The modern libero requires IQ over athleticism. One mistake leaves the entire defense exposed with no cover behind. But when executed properly, it turns a back 4 into an unpredictable tactical weapon that creates overloads without sacrificing defensive stability. Beckenbauer would be proud or possibly confused why it took 40 years for football to realize he was right. Juego de posición superiority. Johan Cruyff brings positional play from Ajax to Barcelona in the late 1980s, and a young midfielder named Pep Guardiola sits in the classroom absorbing every detail. Juego de posición isn't about keeping the ball for the sake of possession, it's about using positioning to manipulate the opponent's defensive shape until it collapses from internal pressure. Every player occupies a specific zone on the pitch, maintaining distances that create passing triangles and diamonds everywhere. When one player moves, the system adjusts automatically, always maintaining numerical superiority in the area where the ball is. Cruyff's Barcelona wins 4 consecutive La Liga titles using this philosophy, and Guardiola spends his entire playing career learning the secrets. The key concept that breaks defenses is the third man run. Player A passes to player B, but player C makes the actual dangerous run into space. Defenders watch the ball move from A to B and completely miss C arriving unmarked into a scoring position. Barcelona under Cruyff executes this constantly, using positional rotations to create situations where the defense is always focused on the wrong player. When Guardiola becomes a manager, he takes Cruyff's principles and adds modern pressing systems, creating a team that dominates possession at Barcelona and later at Manchester City through pure positional superiority. Manchester City's 2023 treble comes directly from perfecting Juego de Posición at a level football's never seen before. City averages 15 pass sequences that break defensive lines through positioning rather than individual brilliance. They don't just pass the ball around waiting for space, they force space to appear by occupying specific zones that drag defenders out of position. Kevin De Bruyne completes 122 passes in the Champions League final against Inter, and 98 of them are within City's positional structure that creates numerical advantages everywhere. The opposition presses 5 players, City has 6 in that zone. They drop back, City has already rotated into different positions. It requires insane patience and discipline. Possession isn't the goal, manipulating the opponent's shape into collapse is. Cruyff invented the language, Guardiola turned it into poetry that wins everything. Mezzala hybrid. The Mezzala translates to half-winger in Italian, and it's Serie A's answer to the question, what if we took a central midfielder and gave him the freedom to attack like a winger without actually being a winger? The Mezzala starts in central midfield alongside a regista or defensive midfielder, but instead of staying narrow, they drift wide into the half spaces during attacks before cutting back inside with the ball. They're not wingers because they defend like central midfielders, tracking runners, and covering ground in the middle of the park. They're not traditional box-to-box players because their movement patterns are specifically designed to exploit the channels between the opposition's fullback and centre-back. Carlo Ancelotti perfects this at AC Milan in the 2000s, using players like Gennaro Gattuso and Clarence Seedorf in hybrid roles that confuse opponents. Niccolò Barella at Inter Milan under Simone Inzaghi is the modern blueprint for the Mezzala role. He runs 12 kilometers per match, scores 5 goals, adds 8 assists, and completes defensive duties that would exhaust 2 normal midfielders. Barella starts centrally in Inter's 3-5-2, but watch him for 10 minutes and he's everywhere, drifting right into the half space to receive passes, cutting inside to shoot, dropping deep to win the ball, then sprinting forward again to support the attack. He's a box-to-box midfielder on steroids, operating in zones that create constant numerical advantages. When Inter wins Serie A in 2024, Barella's movement is the engine that makes everything work. The Mezzala exploits a fundamental weakness in modern defensive systems. Teams are organized to defend against wingers who stay wide or central midfielders who stay central, but not hybrids who do both. When the Mezzala drifts wide, the opposition fullback has to decide whether to follow them into midfield or stay in position. Either choice creates space for someone else. When they cut inside, centre-backs can't step out without leaving gaps behind. Every Serie A side now runs at least one Mezzala because the role creates chaos in defensive structures that can't adapt fast enough. Italy invented a midfielder who does everything, everywhere, and somehow doesn't collapse from exhaustion by the 70th minute. Gegenpressing hell. Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund in 2012 introduces gegenpressing to the Bundesliga, and opponents genuinely can't breathe. The concept is simple but brutal. When Dortmund lose the ball, all 11 players have exactly 6 seconds to win it back before retreating into defensive shape. 6 seconds. Not a minute, not 30 seconds, 6 seconds of absolute chaos where Dortmund swarms the ball like a pack of wolves hunting wounded prey. Opponents receive a pass and immediately find 3 yellow shirts closing them down from different angles, forcing errors in dangerous areas. Klopp describes it perfectly. We defend with 11, chaos for them is organized for us. Dortmund wins back-to-back Bundesliga titles in 2011 and 2012, suffocating Bayern Munich with relentless pressure that turns their build-up play into panic. Klopp takes the system to Liverpool in 2015 and spends 4 years building a team physically capable of executing it for 90 minutes. By the 2018-19 Champions League campaign, Liverpool's gegenpressing reaches terrifying levels of efficiency. They win possession in the attacking third 62% of the time, meaning almost 2 out of every 3 times they lose the ball high up the pitch, they win it back before the opponent can even think about counter-attacking. Barcelona gets destroyed 4-0 at Anfield in the semi-final because they can't handle the pressure. Every touch gets closed down instantly, every pass gets intercepted or deflected, and they crumble under the intensity. Liverpool wins the Champions League by turning defense into an attacking weapon. Gegenpressing demands fitness levels that would break normal humans. Liverpool's midfielders, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, run 12 kilometers per match, sprinting constantly to close down passing lanes and suffocate opponents. One lazy player destroys the entire system because gegenpressing only works when all 11 players commit simultaneously. If one person doesn't press, the opponent finds the free man and breaks through, leaving the defense exposed with everyone pushed up. That's why Klopp obsesses over fitness and attitude. Technical quality means nothing if you can't run for 90 minutes. It's organized chaos that looks like madness but operates like clockwork, and it wins trophies by making opponents wish they'd chosen a different sport. Carrillero chaos. Marcelo Bielsa arrives at Athletic Bilbao in 2011 and introduces a role so exhausting that most players physically can't execute it, the Carrillero. The term roughly translates to lane runner, and it describes a wide midfielder who operates in the channel between the touchline and central midfield, constantly shuttling between both positions throughout the match. They're not wingers, they defend too much. They're not central midfielders, they cover too much width. They're tactical chameleons who create numerical overloads wherever the ball is by appearing in spaces opponents don't expect. Bilbao reaches the Copa del Rey final and Europa League final in Bielsa's first season using this system, running opponents into exhaustion with movements they can't track. The Carrillero differs from the Mezzala in one crucial way: it's more defensively focused. While the Mezzala drifts wide to attack, the Carrillero shuttles wide to defend the flank, then tucks inside to support central midfield, then drifts wide again to receive passes in space. They cover two positions simultaneously, filling gaps in defensive shape while also providing width in attack. When Bielsa takes over Leeds United in 2018, he uses players like Calvin Phillips and Stuart Dallas as Carrilleros, demanding they run 12 to 13 kilometers per match, covering massive areas of the pitch. Opponents can't man-mark them because they're never in the same zone for more than 20 seconds. The role requires insane stamina and tactical intelligence that few players possess. You need the fitness to sprint between touchline and center circle for 90 minutes, the defensive awareness to track runners and cover space, and the technical quality to receive passes under pressure in tight areas. One mental lapse, drifting too wide when you should tuck in, or staying central when you should cover the flank, and the entire system breaks down. Leeds gets promoted to the Premier League in 2020, with Bielsa's Carrillero system confusing championship defences weekly. It's basically asking one player to do the work of two, and somehow Bielsa finds lunatics willing to try it.